Ka. Vim. Ja. Ko. Z. Z.
Okay, take your ka and your jaw and sync them together as we spin them forward into blurs of sparkling light. Ka jaw. Spin backwards. Horizontal clockwise. Horizontal counterclockwise. Vertical clockwise. Counterclockwise. Ka jaw. Perfect sync and harmony. Add the Z. Z ka jaw. Spin them forward. Backwards. Horizontal clockwise. Counterclockwise. Vertical clockwise. Counterclockwise. Zika jaw in perfect sync and perfect harmony together. And Jeanette saying the prayer.
Sister Jeanette, you want to say the prayer? You have to take yourself off mute, though.
Got it. Our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother, we thank you for the opportunity to gather together as children of light all over the world through the wonder of technology. We ask for your Spirit to be with us, uniting us as a family of light. Help us to learn from the oracles, the truths that will benefit us in our lives. We ask these things in the name of our brother Yeshua, so be it.
So be it. Thank you so much. And thank you, Brother Reggie, for leading us in Lanica, and Sister Sky for leading us in Harmony 3. And yeah, Sky is a little anxious there on the last O. And Sister last O. Yeah. Hello, Brother Will.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
How are you?
Good afternoon. I made it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. We're very happy to have you with us. And Sister
Thank you,
Erica
thank you.
looks like she's joining us again. All right. Well, we will jump right into it. Now I have to ask Brother Reggie, though. I see a picture on the wall behind you that's kind of blurry, so I'm just curious what that is, because I can't make out what the picture is.
Oh, this picture is, oh, let me see, is the I don't know if you can see it. That's the husband and wife of Egypt, of Africa. So
okay.
I put that because I don't know if you can see it. This is it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what I always wake up in the morning to look at when I used to stay here with my parents. I left that picture up.
So the
Yeah,
wife is based upon the statue of Nefertiti?
No, nope, no, nothing like this. It was just based on the original individuals of Nubians who were in Egypt. Nubians were the original people, because Nubia means black in ancient Egyptian name. That's what Nubia was for. That's what they call them, Nubians. So that was the kings and queens of Nubia at that time, Egypt. Part
Awesome.
of that.
Well,
Yeah. So
that's super
Thanks for
cool.
sharing.
yeah, absolutely. So that was my inspiration every time when I wake up in the morning. I'm surprised you saw that. So
Well, it reminded me because it was blurry in our picture, and I was reminded that we were that last video we made was so that we put up on YouTube was so blurry we couldn't even see ourselves, and now hopefully we're better. We try to get the camera better focused today, but I was remembering Brother Kiel's comment on MeWe where he said that you guys were so used to seeing us out of focus, it's just normal. And then seeing that picture out of focus made me want to know what it was.
oh yeah. So that's my picture.
Well, as you have the stage, you want to go ahead and give us your lesson for today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's gonna so my lesson of today, I was thinking about what I wanted to inspire upon everybody here. And I was going through one of the blogs that I posted a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, to my students. And I wanted to share this with everybody here. And I also, and this is basically, it's like it's a piggyback to the angel of covenant Miriam mentioned about visualization, creative visualization. So it's just going to piggyback on that because we're actually going to do it together, right? But this, what we're going to do here is going to be what I wrote 2 years ago in my blog was the 12 steps of mind power. And what I did, I outlined exactly, the 12 steps of how to tap into that process, tap into that creative visualization to whatever you want to do. Now, since we are all, Celestine, and we want to be magicians and wizards and sorcerers and sorceresses and stuff like that, I think this would be a good time for us to do that and use that, the 12 steps to mind power. Like I said, this is a piggyback from what the Angel of Covenant Miriam did a couple months back. She basically outlined what needs to be done, and I kind of went a step further. It was kind of interesting because I did this 2 years ago, and I presented it to my students in class, and I wrote it out. So I'm going to read it, and we're going to do it together. So I'm going to have everybody be part of that, and you should start feeling something and sensing something when you do this because this helps. I know some of us say I do this, I do that, I still don't feel the powers yet. I don't feel the magic yet. I don't feel the connection yet. Well, this is going to help build that the more you do it. And the overall lesson here, if you do this like 5 to 10 minutes, a day, then it'll kind of help in everything else. So I'm going to just get started, and I'm going to start it out. So the title is The 12 Steps to Mind Power. The 12 steps to acquire mind power is intended to build positive visuals, acquire mind power, and help you achieve your dreams and your desires. That may be varied as improving your personality, increasing your wealth, attracting love, and making yourself attractive. And in this case, as Celestines, becoming adept in our magical power, right? Following these steps, I have specifically found to help anyone who is new to the power of creative visualization, right? So these are the step one. So we're going to go to step 1 to step 12, right? And I would like everybody to participate, right? And then we're gonna start first by closing our eyes, right? Getting ourselves in a relaxed state, have our eyes closed, and I'm gonna run through the steps. So as I run through the steps, just hear out what I'm saying and then take action with that description. It's gonna help. All right. Step 1, choose a quiet place which is free from all distraction, interruption, or disturbance. This may be inside a bus or in your own room. The idea is to be able to concentrate in any environment that you find is suitable. The ideal is to be able to concentrate in any environment so that you have the opportunity to dive into yourself. The ideal time, however, I found to be is early in the morning or before going to bed. The ideal place may be anywhere as long as you can concentrate. Step 2, feel comfortable, wear loose clothing, or else loosen your belt and your tie. Step 3, be comfortable, keep your spine straight, loosen your hands, relax. This eases your body tension and helps your blood circulate efficiently. Step 4, this is why we're going to get in. Close your eyes. That way your physical world does not interrupt you and you can concentrate on your mental world. Avoid quenching your ears, avoid quenching your eyes, close them gently. In fact, once you focus on your images, you may find your eyes closing naturally. Step 5, breathe normally. Breathe into the nose and out to the nose. Breathe into the nose and out to the nose. Let your body roll with the rhythm of your breath. Listen to that rhythm into your nose and out to your nose. Step 6. Now let's begin the process of visualization. Create the key images of the subject you choose. Form the shape, add color, build the sound, sense them, focus on them, see them as sharply and clearly as you can with your mind's eye. In this case, see us becoming wizards and sorceresses, adepts in the magic, getting in tune with the nature, feeling the powers of the Celestine light, feeling the powers of the energies, tapping into them. Just feel that, see that happening. Add some colors if you want. Bright lights, bright pink, bright oranges. Feel that circulating around you. Right? Step 7, put yourself in the images that you have created. You must be inside that picture as you see yourself. So let your subconscious mind know that the image that you see leads you to your actual goal that you want to be. In this case, to be a powerful adept. Step 8, feel it. Feel what you have created. Now that you are inside the picture, imagine yourself leading in that picture. Feel yourself in that picture. Feel the environment. Feel it. Sense it. See yourself teleport. See yourself levitating. Feel it. Yeah. Watch how different it feels to lead a life you had desired. Bring those images alive. Right? Step 9. Experience the images with all your emotions. See, hear, smell, feel how it feels to have achieved that goal, that ability, that power. Let the excitement and happiness of success flow through you. Feel it. Let it flow. Let the thrill of success build in you. Let the thrill of you being able to levitate, move the image, teleport in and out. Feel it. Be thrilled about it. Feel that success. Be happy with it. Step 10. Once you have experienced this, let your images let the images flow with the emotion. Let your mind, at this point in time now, go blank. Everything is clear. Blank. If you hold on to your image for too long, the image might disappear due to overexposure. So you don't want that to happen. Let it be blank. Let it go. Step 11. Create a space in your mind to receive what you desire. Say to yourself what you desire. Desire to be an adept. I desire to be a magician. I desire to be a sorcerer. I desire to be a sorceress. I desire to be a wizard. All right. By doing this, you not only let your subconscious mind support that picture, you literally achieve your success. Step 12. Feel the creative while creating the images. I have given you so just the basic guidelines. In this case, how to become an adept, a sorcerer, a magician, a wizard. Use this for anything that you want, wealth, house, a job, anything. right? You may change them accordingly to suit, you may change them accordingly to suit your needs, the visualization techniques. The more images you you meet with specific needs, the more effective there will be, right? These are the 12 important steps to mind power. As you sit in your space, continue seeing the images. Don't open your eyes yet. Still in your image, right? Still stay in that image. Still see yourself. Then slowly open your eyes. Okay. See, these then are the 12 important steps to mind power. These are the 12 important steps to mind power that I teach my students on a regular basis. Remember, it's better to visualize 2 or 3 times a day for a shorter duration than to visualize for a longer stretch during that day. You don't want to overexpose your mind, right? Doing this, the quality of your visuals remain fresh instead of being stale, plain, and draining of energy of you, right? Step 1 to 10, as I mentioned before, might take you anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes. It is better that you don't prolong it, but keep it within that time range. Instead, repeat it at another time of another day. Keep repeating it day to day, right? When you release the image after that brief exercise, when we made the mind blank, your mind will become free of the mind power that you had activated automatically. But your subconscious mind keeps on supporting the image that you had set upon it, right? This helps you with your goals, with your dreams, anything that you have in your desire, anything that you want to place into your subconscious mind. The 12 steps, to mind power that I've explained above is the most important and powerful tool that exists. As the Angel of Covenant presented a couple of months ago, I was just extending what she was saying so you can see exactly how to do this, right? She gave us some clear details. I kind of expanded over it even more, which was very interesting because I did this 2 years ago for my students. When you switch on your mind power and extend it to a creative visualization for turning your dreams into reality, then it is exactly what will happen. You will get what you want. Your dreams will become reality. Remember, with your mind, you can rule the world. But there's one thing that we realize at times when we do these kind of um, mind power techniques or do any kind of technique, that sometimes our faith in ourselves kind of blocks it. We don't believe that we can. Like we did this exercise together, but when it comes to doing ourselves, we might say, I don't know if it's working. I don't know if it's gonna happen. We did it together, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Automatically, you're cutting, that energy. And the faith that we have within ourselves is very key in terms of accomplishing anything that you want. As stated in Vivas, chapter 49, verse 18 to 24, this is what mentioned in oracles about faith. It is not something that can be learned, but something that must be acquired. The greatest treasure of heaven or earth is the name, and its name is faith. Until one's faith is perfect, the veil cannot be lifted to the past or the future. The past forgotten and the future longed for are necessary to develop faith. And only one's own faith is a perfect candidate can the veil be lifted. What is to have perfect faith then? Martha asked. Miriam answered her, saying, perfect faith is to know that any righteous, unselfish thing you ask of Elohim shall be done, that any command that you give to men or demons or mountains in the name of Elohim in virtue shall be done as you have commanded. Know it with every fiber of your being and to know it without doubt. Perfect faith is to know that the will of Elohim is your will, and this by your free choice and desire, not by fear or because of pleasant association with your friends or family, but because the Celestine light burns bright in your heart and illuminates the path before you with a torch that cannot be dimmed. Perfect faith is to hear the voice of Elohim in the wind, moving through the trees, in the songs of the birds and the music of the crickets. in the rush of the river or the tinkle of the creek. Perfect faith is to feel the embrace of Elohim in arms of all whom you love, the deepest part of your heart. I feel the embrace of our Heavenly Father and Mother when I hold you, or our children, or Yeshua. This I attest to you, my brothers and sisters, are true in the name of our eldest brother, Yeshua.
So be it.
So be it.
Thank you.
So be it.
Brother Reggie, that was
Um,
fantastic.
Thank you.
Brother Reggie, can you put that blog in the MeWe?
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
sure.
asked the same question.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about a blog. I said, well, wow, I want to start reading that blog.
You got it. I will.
And then I have another special request. That was so good and it's so important to being able, what you talked about in the creative visualization is so not just important, but essential for actually being able to perform real magic, that I would be very grateful if you would be willing to take that, what you just gave us, and make it a chapter in my new book, Secrets of Celestine Light Magic, which will be credited to you in the chapter as the author of. That would be, because that is something that's pointed out in the book as a lot, and you just explained it so well how to acquire it, that I'd be honored if you would be willing to put it as a chapter in the book.
Sure. Absolutely. I'm honored.
Well, what's it's interesting is for the last couple days, I've been being prompted to give a talk on consciously creating your reality, which is basically very, very similar, adding in angels and words of power. But it's like I kept saying, well, I'm really busy. I'll do it for the priesthood meeting, but now I can see how it would have piggybacked perfectly with what you were saying. So anyway, everybody hold that thought and we'll pick it up next week.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Brother Reggie, I have a question.
Sure.
Let me how to say let me so when you're going over the 12 steps, I just wanted to know, would that be the same as, might be a good question, but would that be the same as when we daydream? Like, for example, when we imagine something, let's say we're doing something and let's say our mind just wanders, or we imagine something like, hey, I want this, or we're in that dream state in the, let's say in the morning or in the afternoon, whenever it just happens, you're just in this state that you're seeing yourself and visualizing yourself in something, maybe a fancy car, whatever the case may be. Oh, I'm gonna be a millionaire. I want to be this. Would that be? It sounds like it's almost like daydreaming when you just go into that trance and you wake up like, oh, it felt like you were sleeping, but you were awake, but you were in an image or in a dream during the day, saying, oh, I was in this image, like, oh wow, what happened? Oh, I just had a daydream of I was doing this, or I was in this. Would that be in the same context?
Yes and no. So when you daydream, what happens when you daydream is that you're not consciously creating your reality.
Okay.
Right. So when you're
Mhm.
daydreaming, you're drifting off a little bit, either by you're tired or you're just sitting and you're thinking and you drift.
Okay.
Right. When
Right.
you're consciously doing visualization, you're setting an intention, like, you know what, this is what I want. Like for this, in this case, in this space, we all want to be adepts in Celestine magic. We want to be magicians, wizards. We want to be sorcery. We want to tap into that Celestine magic, like
Mhm.
like it's no tomorrow, right?
Right.
So we're consciously want to see ourselves doing that. See ourselves. We're gonna set the intention, like, you know what? I see a boulder in front of me. I see the boulder's heavy and big and strong. I see myself lifting it with the words of power, right? You just see yourself doing that. Okay?
Killers.
That's visualization, right? That's the visualization. That's the intention, right? Like you mentioned, you want to be rich and wealthy, right? You want to see yourself like, in the beach of Ibiza, Spain, relaxing in the beach, being served, grape juice, right? Being with your wife, just relaxing, the kids running around, and you just listening and just relaxing, right?
Right.
You
Right.
want to,
Right.
so that's that. That's the visualization, right?
Oh,
The
okay.
visualization is an intention. You want to see yourself. Daydreaming is that, you're doing some work, right? You're looking on the computer and you're
Mhm.
drifting off and you're like, yeah. And you wake up, whoa, I just woke up from this dream. I just saw, but it's not visualization, right? So what's happened is that daydreaming piggybacks from your visualization, let you see where you're heading, where you're going.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
See?
Okay.
That makes
Good, good,
sense?
good.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's what's happening,
All
right?
right.
That's the difference. So
Got
daydreaming
it.
and visualization is two different
Different
things,
things.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same in retrospect, right? But it's different because one is intention, one is non-intention.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Reggie, for breaking that down.
And
No
then
problem.
I'll add to that too. Thank you, Brother Reggie. That was a great explanation. And then just to add to that, from a magic standpoint, if you're trying to actually do Celestine light magic, so if you're daydreaming, for instance, about being wealthy or having a fancy car, something like that, that's something you're seeing happening in the future. Whereas when you're doing magic, it's happening right at that moment in time. So like when Brother Reggie talked about lifting the boulder up using Kellars. So if you're actually doing Celestine magic, that's happening in real time. It's not some future thing that you're dreaming about. It's something that's happening right then. And so that creative visualization, let's say you have this boulder in front of you as an example, and you want to lift it, and you're saying the word of power, Kellars, and it's not lifting. Well, there's multiple ingredients that are necessary to call in and coalesce the magic necessary to levitate that rock. And one of the most essential ones is the creative visualization. What does that mean? That means that when you look at that rock with your eyes, your physical eyes are physically looking at a physical rock that's right in front of you, and you've got the other ingredients that you need, like for instance, the faith that you need, the passion you need, but you've got to be able to look at that rock and in your mind's eye, see that rock lifting up, as you say, Kellars. So if you have all the other ingredients, but you don't have that ability to do the creative visualization to in your mind's eye, and I'm talking about with your eyes open in this case. So you're not talking about you're closing your eyes and visualize. Your eyes are open. You're looking at that rock, and while you're looking at that rock and saying Kellars and having all the other necessary ingredients, you visualize that rock rising up. And that is actually, that's why I want to have Brother Reggie included as a chapter. Look, that is such a key element to actually making the rock raise up, is to being able to look at a physical object that's physically in front of you, and in your mind's eye, while you're looking at it and saying Kellars and anything else, see it lifting up, not seeing it on the ground, seeing it lifting up. It's the same thing if you, let's say there's a fortress and it's got this huge 50-foot stone wall that's 20 feet thick and 50 feet tall, and no amount of anything other than a gigantic bomb would make that rock or that wall fall down. But with magic, you could, but part of it would, as you were saying the magical things and looking at that wall with your eyes open, you have to see that wall crumbling down. And if you can't see it crumbling down, it's not going to work from a magic standpoint, because that is a essential factor that's necessary to make any magic work, big or small. You've got to be able to creatively visualize what it is you want to happen.
So can I say something else, brother?
Absolutely, please.
So that's why when I do my daily practices with with Lanica and the contemplative meditation, and then when I'm done with the daily practices, right, I see myself, moving the objects, moving the air. I visualize that, right? Now, and then at the same time, I look at a plant or a tree or a rock in front of me, right? Eyes open, and I don't, if I don't see it move, I don't say, it's not moving. I just say, okay, I'll try it again next time. 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 See, that's a different energy than saying, it's not working, because automatically when you do that, you cut it off, because it's all, I try to say, it's progressive, right? It's progressive. We don't see it because we are in this realm, but if we were in 6, and I did that the first day, it'll be shooting to the sky immediately, because that intention was so strong. I've been practicing it in this realm. As I go to 6, it'll be like automatic. So I'm not worried about in the present moment about not making it move. I just know it is moving, and because I don't see it doesn't mean it's not, because the molecules and the frequency and the vibration, they're moving, but we don't actually see it, but they're moving. So that's why I want to make sure that we understand that. That's important.
Thank you so much. That is very important. And that leads into another thing too, that piggybacks on that, is that when you're trying to do something magically, and you just start out from you're just a mundane person, you don't do any magic, and now you want to start to be able to do magic. And it's actually works the same way in a lot in life. Is people they ask for too much right away. I want to go from being barely able to make my monthly bills to being super multimillionaire tomorrow. And it's a step-by-step process. And because faith is part of the process, we can say, well, I want to go from being able to barely pay my bills to being a millionaire tomorrow. We can say that, and we can say we want it, but we don't really have the faith that we have the ability to do that like that. But what do we have the faith to do? Do we have the faith to say that this time next month, I want to be making $100 more a month than I'm making right now, or $500, whatever? You do have the faith for that. You're from where you are to where you want to go. That's not such a big leap. So yes, you have that faith. So like, for instance, Brother Reggie was talking about calling in the wind to move the branches. Okay, that's a small thing versus I want to call on a hurricane to just blow this whole town away. That's a big thing. And so if you start with the small things and see that you have success with the small things, that builds your faith in being able to do something bigger. And when you succeed at that builds your faith in being able to do something bigger, because you have a foundation of that faith. You have a foundation believing in yourself and in your own abilities to do those things. So my encouragement in that is to yes, everybody can do these things. They're not special gifts that only certain people can do, but they are the reason that they look like they're special gifts is because only a few people actually ever figure out what they need to do to make those special gifts actually manifest. But all of us can do it. We just have to make sure that we are cognizant of the different elements that are necessary to make it happen. One of those necessary elements is don't try to do something grandiose and then get disappointed because it didn't happen. Start with something smaller, see that you can do it, and then go to something bigger.
And don't get disappointed if you can't even do the little things. Like
Right.
Brother Reggie said, tomorrow,
Right.
the next day,
Exactly.
the next day.
Exactly.
It's like at some point you'll see that big leap.
Yeah, I don't know how many people I've seen be interested in Celestine light magic, and then when they can't manifest something big right away, they just, okay, well, they didn't even come close to doing the steps necessary to manifest something little, and they're already disappointed they can't manifest something big. So yeah. So anyway, I don't think anything else to say on that, Brother Reggie. Anything else?
Yeah. One last thing. I'll just, if you don't mind, brother, and I just want to. I think it's important, because we could say, all this, right? But I'm coming from experience, right? And my experience is, I'm a kung fu master, right? And I've been studying kung fu for 30 years, right? My grandmaster still teaches me, right? And one of the things that got me really believing in power and magic was at that time, my grandmaster was telling me that in order for me to get to the next level, I got to break a brick, right? Now, when we see a brick is like, like a house brick, right? It's like you've seen bricks, right? When people see that, automatically they say to themselves, I can't. I'm gonna break my hand. I'm gonna break my finger. You're crazy. You're nuts. I'm gonna get out to school. You are nut. Okay, that's the first thing. I had students tell me that all the time, but I always tell them, yes, you can. Right? It's all about practice, 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 and conditioning and conditioning. Because with that practice and conditioning, you could do whatever you want, because this is what limits you. So when I had to do that, I had to go through the same thing. I had to go through my trials and tribulations. I had to go through my defeat. I had to go through my disbelief. My faith was very, very limited. It was like this, like this. I didn't believe in faith. I want to keep my hands. So I was given a series of instructions of what I need to do. So I kept doing it day in and day out, every single day for like 6 months, every single day. I kept doing it, breathing, meditation, conditioning, exercise, every single day, because the grandmaster and my master was adamant that I should do this. So it was all 8 of us in the class, and we had to do that. So every one of us did that. So the day came for our testing, and he gave us a break, right? The break. Automatically had butterflies in my stomach. My heart was beating. I was sweating bullets and all that. But I went back to my training, and it calmed me down because I relaxed myself. And the brick was present, And I did it the first time. Snapped, it popped, all right? To this day, I could still do that, right? 30 years later, I could still do that, right? I could still break a brick, break a slab. Till this day, when I tell people that, to look at me like I have three heads. Because when I say yes, it's accomplishable because we have that capability. Elohim gave us that capability of how to use our mind and our faith to do the extraordinary. And that's why I'm so adamant about developing myself with the magic there is, because every one of us here has that ability, right? It's just the faith and the belief in ourselves that kind of limits us from that, right? So that's why I want to share. And I'm very adamant about this because we could all do it. And that's why I'm really gung ho, because I can see the potential of just all of us doing it at the same time, right? It's just magical. I can see it. So that's, that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful, wonderful talk. And does anybody have any questions you want to ask Brother Reggie, like Brother Will did, about this subject?
Okay, well, 2023. We're doing
Yeah,
it.
everybody come here for 2023 for Vitalta, and we'll be able to magnify a lot of things when there's all of us focused on the same objective at the same time. And one of the interesting things, Samar and I were talking to Philos the other day, and like Brother Reggie mentioned 6 there, and we were talking about how strange it is that on 6, religion is not really a very big thing. I mean, there are religions, but they're small and insignificant, and it's not it's not something that people give really much attention to. And so the reasoning for that is, why is that? We were asking, well, why is it? Why is religions like almost non-existent on 6? And then Felix pointed out that the reason is that if you look on, just start with our own world, our own planet here, and on this world, and this is a generalization, of course, but if you have people who life is a struggle for them, they barely get by, and there's nothing in the contemporary world that's helping them, it's far easier for them to think about a God being able to help them that they can't see that's somewhere else, but to believe in a higher power, a higher energy that they could call upon that can help them. They're in a more humble position because they're not able to help themselves. At least they don't perceive that they can help themselves more than they can do. So they're reaching out for help, and there's no humans to help them. There's no people to help them anymore that they perceive. And so they're reaching out, and they're more willing to do that because of their situation in life. And again, then you look at a rich person in this world. Now, there's rich people that belong to different religions, and they're sincere in their beliefs and their religious beliefs. But by and large, the more money people have, the more they're able to accomplish for themselves, the less interested they are in God. What do I need God for? I can do all this stuff myself. I can buy whatever I want. I don't need God, And it's the same way on 6, but not for money. It's for magic. You say, well, magic's everywhere. There's so many magic minerals there, magic plants, magic animals. Everything's magic. Everything's so much easier because of that. They don't think about God. They don't think about calling on a higher power for help because they don't need it. There's magic here, magic. Even simple people can do things that to us would be amazing. And we would be, wow, I wish I could do that. And everybody can do that on 6, And so they don't have that motivation to call on a higher power because just like a rich person here, they feel, well, I don't need anybody else. I can take care of this myself. And so that, that's actually sad in a way, because faith is actually a necessary ingredient to personally growing more, to personally gaining more soul energy essence, to personally being further along the path of eternal progression. So yes, if you're wealthy in the world today, you can do a lot of things that wealthy people can do. If you have magic on 6, you can do a lot of magical things. But what is actually there that's growing your faith? What actually is there that's growing your soul essence? And that's really an important aspect to consider, and to actually think, if we're not in that situation, if we're not on 6 where magic is everywhere, if we're not up in the upper echelons of financial well-being, that we can just buy whatever we want, do whatever we want. That's actually a blessing, because it's hard for people who are in that position, whether they're on earth or whether they're on six, to ever find God, to find Elohim, to find Yeshua. And so those of us who aren't in that position are actually blessed, because it's easier for us to reach out and find that higher power that's so much greater than all the wealth in the world, that's so much greater than all the magic in the world. And I know personally, I'm very grateful that life has been, I'm 67, and life's never been easy. I've always had to struggle from this and that, or from something or other. And I'm grateful for those struggles, because they make me better, they make me closer to Elohim. And I know I would not be who I am today, or have the relationship I have with Elohim today, if I hadn't had the struggles I had through my life to bring me to that place. And I tell you these things in great sincerity, in the name of Brother Yeshua. So be it.
So be it. So be it. Well, and that's the interesting thing on 6, is that he's like Elon Musk on 6. He's got so much magic. And so the interest in, I mean, he connects with Ambrose when he knows about Elohim.
You're talking about Cervalian on 6, which is my kind of alter ego on 6.
Yeah. But he doesn't have the need to connect with Elohim or the same pull that Ambrosman does here. So it's very interesting. I'm missing that part of him there. And then Philos is going to talk about Kellars, because my other self is learning magic on 6, but I'm not having as great of success even there as I would like. So I told myself, this self, to tell that self about the word Kellars, but Trevelyan said, oh, they don't use that.
Yeah, because she asked about, do they use that word of power on 6? And Trevelyan told her that yes, they have that word of power, but nobody uses it because it's not necessary. Here, something like that.
Well, you said it takes much more focus. I mean, you have to visualize, you have to focus, where on 6, you don't have to do that.
Right. So the magic is so easy on 6 that, yeah, focus isn't very necessary. You just incorporate the things you need and the magic happens. Here, we don't live in a magical world. And so to create magic actually takes focus and takes dedication and time and effort. And because none of that's necessary, so Trevelyan said, yeah, just there's no reason that anybody would use Kellars, because that would require far more time and effort than just doing levitation magic with magic minerals or whatever else they want to use for that. So, all right, so we were going to talk with Philos today.
Well, first we have an herbal.
Oh yes, brother Kiel
video.
did a great herbal presentation for us. You know how he normally does the video ones because he can't be at our meeting. This one he did outdoors, so I'm assuming, I haven't had to watch it. I just saw the outdoor setting.
It's very good.
That he's actually going to point out the herbs he's talking about in the wild, is what I'm assuming. So let's go ahead and watch that.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Today I'm outside on mountain bike trail here, and I decided, or I happened to come across a place where I know catnip grows. So I will show you what it looks like out in the wild here. So we got some younger catnip plants here. These here, you can always tell by how it smells. If you're among them, you'll notice that minty smell, because they are part of the mint family. And there's a bigger plant over here. There's a lot of other ones laying down, but they're out of bloom right now, and the best time to use them is when they are in full bloom. And right now it's in the middle of August here, so earlier than that would have been July would probably have been the best time to be picking these here. And they have, to identify them also, is they have a square stem. And you can just roll it between your fingers. And you can easily tell that it's square. All the mints have the square stems. And they're also opposite leaf pattern to them. So another way to identify. And we got a little bee there who's pollinating the flowers right now. So, okay, there might be, the flowers are very tiny in here. So I hope you can make that out. But once you know the smell of these, you're pretty easy to identify them. Most people know these plants for their ability to attract cats, which if you have a plant around your yard, if you have any cats nearby, they'll probably destroy it. It has actually a different effect on cats than it does humans, though. Humans, it's more of a sedative effect, a calming effect. It's a calmative herb. That's generally what it's used for. It's really good for soothing your stomach issues. Really good for infant colic. Really good for helping young children fall asleep better, as well as adults. I use it myself. You dry the leaves, and the leaves are what you mainly are using. You dry the leaves and you can make them into a tea, or you can make a tincture out of them if you don't want to do that too. But this is a very valuable herb to know, because these pretty much grow everywhere. And I think that's all I got on this herb right now. So thank you for watching, and namaste, brothers and sisters.
That was great.
That was awesome. I hope he does some more outdoor ones like that. That was really
Yeah,
great.
that was fun.
That was cool. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. I never made that connection that catnip was part of the mint family. It does have a square stem, and mints are the only plants I know that have square stems. So yeah, that makes sense. That's awesome. Okay, so we want to talk to Philos?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to say a little
Sure.
prayer?
Heavenly Father and Mother, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with Philos. We're so grateful for Ambrosan's ability to communicate in this way, and for Philos always wanting to help us to expand our knowledge and our awareness. Please be with us, that your love and light enlighten us. We can take what we learned from Philos and apply it directly to our lives. In Yeshua's name, so be it.
So be it.
I got lost.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings. So thank you for having me here today. I can't stay long. I have a lot going on, but I guess that's a blessing, as I don't let talk too much. All right, so I'm here. I know you had a list of things you wanted to ask, so go ahead and ask your list, and I'll see if I can elaborate on them for you.
Do you want me to read the?
Well, just
let's
ask
start
me
with-
something on your list, and I'll start with that.
Okay. Since there's such a big interest in aliens, and you spoke about aliens our last time, is there anything else that you would like to add about the aliens around our planet, other planets?
Sure, I can tell you some things that you're not aware of, not available to you in all. There's so much on your world that talks about aliens, from movies and books and televisions and commentaries, and everybody has their opinion. So I'll give you some information that you're not going to get in all of those speculations. And I've said this before years ago, some of these things, and but I think it's worth saying again for those that are here that may not have part of that. So first of all, to understand, starting with your Earth, your planet is really a jewel in the universe. It's not very, even though there's uncountable number of inhabited planets that you could call the Earth, they're not duplicates of this Earth, and they're not as beautiful and as wonderful. There are planets where if you could picture your worst environment here, like for instance, living in Antarctica or living in the Sahara Desert, and there are planets that that's what their whole world is. And that's their whole existence, is to have to scrape by in such inhospitable places. And so here, where you have a world that has land and has water, it's not all land, it's not all water, that alone is amazing and beautiful and wonderful and gives you great diversity of your planet. And of course, you have an enormous abundance of life here, of all types, from plants to bugs to animals to birds. And even though a lot of things come and go in extinction, there's still so many things on your planet that is not like that on most worlds that are inhabited. Most worlds have far less life because the world itself is far less hospitable. And so that's something to realize, is that because your world is a jewel in the universe, it is an attractive spot for a lot of aliens to come to this world and to observe it and to partake of it. Now, you don't know they're partaking of it, but they are. But there is some not official rules, but there are some etiquette rules that are honored by most, but not all, alien races that are space traveling. And one of those is, as is depicted, I think, in some of your television shows, is that you do not interfere with the inhabitants of the planet, at least not until they, as an entire planet, are united enough to be able to make contact, physical contact, with the alien races. Now, when I say alien races, that's a terrible word to say, because they're not races like that. So for instance, just like you are an Alamars, all of you are Alamars, doesn't matter what color you are, you're all Alamars. And that's actually the most predominant type of being in the whole universe. There are many other types of beings, hundreds of intelligent types of beings, that some of them much more intelligent than you are, but they're not Alamars. But Alamars are the most numerous in all the different planets. And the interesting thing about Alamars is that even though you think about as a race, you can't think about Alamars as, say, well, that's a space traveling race. Well, yes, well, maybe the Alamars from this planet are space traveling. Maybe they have that capability, but the Alamars on this planet are still back on the Stone Age from your world. So it's very not appropriate to think about a race as being space traveling. There are members of a race, there are members of the Alamars, of which all of you are Alamars. There are some Alamars on some planets that are space traveling, and there's other Alamars on other planets that are still making flint arrowheads for their tools. So as a race, they're not space traveling. It's only this group is and that group isn't. So anyway, now, as far as your world, this is an interesting thing though, because at any one time, there's at least, and sometimes much more, but there's at least 100 alien spacecraft of some type, either on your world or around your world or in your solar system. Almost all of those alien spacecrafts, or whatever they're in, not always a spacecraft, sometimes it's an energy ball, but in any case, from one means or another, they have a way normally to stay cloaked and invisible to any of your detection. You can't see them with your physical eyes, you can't detect them with your primitive instruments, but that's not always the case, but that's often the case. A lot of alien races actually have found ways to incorporate energy spheres as their spacecraft. So they don't actually have a physical spacecraft, they have energy farces that allow them to stay protected from the vacuum of space as they travel. And even though they might have physical structures inside, this actual spacecraft is not a physical structure like that. So it's really beyond the capability of people at your technological level to understand. Most of them can't even grasp what I'm talking about now. But anyway, now let us look at your world. Your world is a place of a lot of wars and turmoils and conflicts and destructions. And people would ask, well, if there's all these intelligent aliens that are more advanced than us, why did they come and just stop everyone from having wars or prevent nuclear war or all of that type of thing? And that goes back to two things here that I want to make you realize. Number one is easier to comprehend. Number two, not so easy to comprehend. But number one is that, as I said, there is an etiquette that you don't interfere with the worlds that are existing until they, as an entire world, have embraced the higher races that are higher. I shouldn't say I'm saying races, higher space traveling cultures and civilizations. So they don't interfere for that reason. And sometimes they want to, but the other ones that are from other places say, no, you're not going to do that. We're not going to let you do that. But the more important reason is that they actually, a lot of them use your Earth. So for instance, your world is a great water world. It has great oceans of great depths that cover 2/3 of the planet. And water is an extremely important resource for a lot of alien cultures. And a lot of alien worlds have almost no water on them. And water is far more precious than gold is on those planets, and those cultures, because it's so rare. And it's so valuable because of all the things that it can do. You think about, well, what can water do on your well? When you think about, you can drink it, you can make hydroelectric power with it. But many alien races see far better uses of that. It is basically a great energy source. Water is oxygen and hydrogen, both which are highly flammable gases in a gas farm and highly explosive. And so that is something that highly utilized. And you may not realize, but a lot of your oceans are actually aliens come and they actually suck up the water. They like that. If they can fill up a spaceship with water, then they've just filled up a spaceship with gold compared to what if you had done that. And they also harvest the sea resources as well. They may, just like you may eat the fish, they may eat the fish as well. And there are actually alien bases that are underneath your ocean. But they come from water worlds, or they don't come from water worlds, but they're making bases underneath your ocean because they're undetectable down there, and they can still make use of all of the oceans. So there's a lot of things there. Now, the second reason that I said is not so easy, more so palatable. When you look at your world and you see all these problems with, like, perhaps, I know you're really close to nuclear war now, closer than you've been in a long time. And people say, well, why did the aliens who are there come and stop that from happening? Well, sadly, most of them don't care. Most of them don't care. And I'm sorry that that's the case. And I wish it wasn't, because there are some that do care. But most of them don't care. If you destroyed your whole world, if the whole world was wiped out, all life upon it virtually by nuclear war, and the world became radioactive, and that radioactivity is going to not affect most of these aliens. And in any case, as long as the world itself is still there, as long as there's still minerals that they can mine in the ground, and there's still water that they can get in the ocean, then they don't care. If the people want to kill each other off, that's okay. And that's not okay for me, and it's not okay for you, and it's not okay for some of the aliens, but for a great number, the majority of them, they really wouldn't care if everybody wiped each other out with nuclear war. And that's a sad state, that and that's the main reason that you don't have any kind of interference. But the other thing is that aliens do not want to tip the scales in any way. So until your world is united more, and instead of being adversaries and everybody fighting with each other, and they're more united in one purpose, and at that point, then you're going to see all of your space traveling beings that are close. Most of them are LMRs, not all of them, that they'll come down, they'll land in all of your cities, and they'll introduce themselves, and they'll be very happy to establish trading relationships. But they don't want to do that from a standpoint of people are afraid of them. You know, you have movies where aliens attack and stuff. And yes, there are bad aliens. There are aliens that would do harmful things, but they're greatly restrained by the vast majority who are far above that. If you think about it, if you're capable of traveling through space greater than your solar system, which means you have to be able to use those wormholes that it depicts very well in your television and movies. That's actually a true thing, and that is something that actually is used, and they actually get that exactly. The depiction of it is correct in your science fiction shows. But in any case, when you have alien cultures that are advanced enough to be able to do that, they're normally advanced enough that they're not going to be hurtful, conquering of other peoples who are less advanced than they are, as is often depicted in the wrong way by your television and movies and things like that. So that's all I have to say on aliens, unless you have a question about it.
You have a question?
No.
Oh, you
I
have
have a
oh,
I have a question.
Yes.
There's this talk. Now I try not to follow a bunch of information that's nonsensical, but there's talk about quote unquote alien invasion. It's all like within, you know, social media groups and stuff like that. I just want to hear from you, Philos, if possible. Is that talk falsified, or is there some kind of truth with that?
There's not going to be an alien invasion. First of all, number one, there's not a sufficient number of aliens to do an invasion. And number two, the majority, as I said, there's multiple alien cultures that are represented in your solar system and around your planet, and on your planet even already. And if there is a rogue one that says, hey, we want to invade, we want to do this, well, first of all, they don't have sufficient numbers or capability to do any type of invasion. It's not like what are the worlds where you have hundreds of alien spacecraft putting these death beams down on the planet. That's not, nobody has that kind of capability. Nobody has the Death Star capability of Star Wars or anything like that. So that's not going to happen from that standpoint. And even if you just have a rogue group that says, well, we're just going to go around to this country that nobody cares about and nobody knows about because there's the people there are all primitive or poor or whatever. We're going to go there and we're going to start harvesting the people or whatever. The other aliens out here aren't going to let that type of thing happen because it would be interfering with what they want to happen and what they think is right. And again, the space traveling cultures tend to be more advanced ethically than the non-space traveling cultures. So as you look at societies, and you can start with the society that you are right now and go backwards in time, medieval ages and back to the Stone Age ages, and the further back you go in time, the less ethical and the more violent and less respectful people are of other people. And so even though your world has a lot of challenges right now, and a lot of, internally, just with your own population out there, has a lot of challenges. A lot of the bigger problems is the fact that you have nuclear weapons. Because without those nuclear weapons, if you took that out of the equation, then the people that are here on the planet are actually in a better state financially and health-wise. They live longer. There's actually less wars and conflicts, even though there seems like there's a lot right now, and there are, but compared to the past, there's less. And you know, in the past, like for instance, you have this Ukraine-Russian war going on right now it's been going on for a little over 6 months now, and it seems like a long time. And of course, there's the risk of nuclear weapons. In the meantime, cities are being bombed and all that stuff. But it's insignificant to wars of your past. I mean, countries that go to war and they stay at war for 100 years. The same countries fighting for 100 years, generations upon generations. And you don't see that anymore. And so I think I'm getting off track from your question, but as far
No, you're not. That's fine. You're not.
as far as in the alien invasion, I can say unequivocally that there will never, ever, ever be an alien invasion of your planet. There may be aliens who watch your planet be destroyed by yourselves, but they won't be doing the destruction.
All right, any other questions about aliens before we move on?
Yeah, I have heard or I have read somewhere that the noise pollution created by Earth, especially test firing rockets and stuff like that, are disturbing alien worlds around us. Is there any truth in that?
No, that's not accurate. Again, you're talking about insignificant farces. So no, that would have not any effect on aliens that are even on the planet, let alone off the planet.
So Philos, why does all this misinformation? You know, I mean, we read it, we hear it. Why is that happening about certain topics, like for example, aliens? Why is this
I think that has to do with the Alamar persona. It's actually an interesting thing because it's not just on your will. All Alamars everywhere seem to have an affection for drama. You've had the term drama queen. Well, Alamars are all drama queens. And now you may think, well, you're not a drama queen, and maybe you're not. But as a group of a species, Alamars like drama. They like suspense. They like even horror. And so these type of things are easily cultivated because they appeal to I don't understand why. I am an Alamar. I started out even in a physical body, even as you are, and I was the same way. And it took an education and knowledge and being able to see different realities that made me be able to suppress that part of me, because it is a natural tendency of Alamars to have that. Oh, there's a conspiracy, or this is happening behind the scenes we don't know about. Yes, there are things that happen behind the scenes that you don't know about. That's true. I'm not going to say that's not true because it is. But by far and large, I would say that probably 95% of the things that are put out as conspiracy theories, or this is really happening, or that, have actually no basis in reality.
It's the attention seeking.
Well, I think it's just the people they like that. They like to read about that. They like to think about that. It's a way to, if in your everyday life, most people, if they really think about it, they feel pretty powerless. They feel powerless to make more money. They feel powerless to fulfill their dreams. They feel the governments make rules and regulations that they may not like, but they don't have any choice. They have to live them. They have to do them. They have to pay their taxes. They feel very powerless. And so when they can think about a conspiracy theory of any type, especially if it involves the government in any way, then it gives them a sense of power to know something about the government. And even though they don't actually do anything with that knowledge that they think they have, it gives them a sense of more power because they think they know something that's not known about the government or about aliens or about any of those type of things. And so I think that is also a contributing factor.
Any more alien questions? Okay. Yeah.
I just want, are there really aliens at Area 51?
Okay.
And spaceships and all of that stuff?
All right. So I can answer that question. There are, okay. That one is not a conspiracy theory. Yes, there are spacecrafts that have been reverse engineered at Area 51. Yes, there are spacecrafts from aliens that have crash landed on the Earth. Yes, there are alien bodies that have been captured by various militaries and some alive and some not alive. And yes, that's not a conspiracy theory. That has occurred. And so that's one of the 5% that's actually accurate.
Are there any aliens in captivity?
Not currently, no.
Were any of them tortured?
Not in the way of torture that you think about. They are tortured only because of ignorance of not understanding their physiology.
Okay. Any more alien questions?
All right, what's the next on your list?
Okay. You were gonna speak about the angel of the Zika Quoja and how to use that angel. What?
All right, so so there are a lot of angels that, let's look at your energy centers. And when you go through your Lorna and you go through your energy centers, and there's actually an angel for each individual energy center. And there's actually another angel for any two that you want to put together. So any two combination that you had, there would be an angel that would work with those two. And that would be that angel's stewardship and specialty. And the same for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. And so in this particular case, you have your Z and your Ka and your Ko and your Ja, and Sister Skye had asked about that angel. That's actually the name of that particular angel. That angel's name is Zikakwo Ja. Now that's not the same case for other angels of different, maybe you have an angel whose stewardship is the Ja in the Wiz. All right. Well, that name of that angel is not Jah Wiz. That angel is going to have a different name. But in the case of the Z, Ka, Ko, Jah, that actually is the name of the angel. That's the only angel that's like that the whole name is just the same as the energy centers. And in your work with your energy centers, there will be times that you want to emphasize certain energy centers more than others. When you think about, I always like to think about the energy centers not as being a linear line, but being a circular chain. And the famous saying of this chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And that's why this is my personal preference. Why I like to picture it like that is as a chain that's a circle, and in that chain are the different energy centers. And whichever one is the weakest, that's not spinning as strong as it should, or not expanded as great as it should be, that's the weakest link, and it impedes the effectiveness of the other energy centers. And so there will be times that you may want to concentrate on strengthening that weakest link. Just like if you're doing something mental and you had a weakness in knowledge, perhaps you were terrible at math, and that inability to do math well has held you back in your life, in your work, or whatever, well, that would be probably wise to emphasize learning and becoming better at math. If you found that you never had great health in your physical body, it would be worth your time to concentrate on doing what you can to become more healthy, in the foods you eat and the combinations of those foods. If you were not in very good physical shape as far as being able to do physical activities, then it's worth focusing on going to the gym or whatever it is that you need to do to start strengthening your muscles and your stamina and your ability to do those things. And so the energy centers are the same way, is that, for instance, in the case of the angel, Zika Ko Ja, those 4 energy centers have the opportunity, number one, they are all weak energy centers for a lot of people. A lot of people that are Z is like almost non-existent. They have no psychic abilities. They have no abilities to sense magical energies or anything like that. So their Z is very small. And a lot of people, especially once they're into their 30s and they're out of their schooling years, they stop feeding their Ka. They stop growing in their mental abilities. And so what happens is you never stand still very long. You're either growing or you're shrinking. So if people are not actively doing things to work their mind and increase their knowledge, then they're atrophying and they're losing what they already have. So you get to the point where there may have been something that you are mentally capable of understanding and doing in your 20s. And then when you get to your 50s, even though you know that you used to be able to do that, you can't do it anymore. So instead of increasing your abilities, you've lost abilities that you already had. And so the Ko is another area. When people are younger, unless they've had something that's beat them down when they were younger and made them have a small quo, it's the most likely time in their life that they're going to be idealistic and have not be limited in their thinking of what they could achieve in this life and what they could become. So their quo is strong. But as they go through life and life goes, oh, there's a punch there and there's a punch there, and life beats them down, and they find, oh, and now they've got more responsibilities and have children, they have more bills, they have car payments to make and rent payments to make, and life becomes more and more difficult, and they get that down, and their quo shrinks. It becomes less than it was, and their idealism they had in their youth now becomes less and less until it's actually gone. It's not there anymore. That happens for a lot of people. And then the jaw, the passion, the love for people, for instance, they have very openness to love and openness to relationships and harmony, and they'll get married, or they'll get into a relationship with someone they really love a lot and they care about, and then the relationship comes crashing down. And then what do? Well, now it takes away that openness they had for love, and instead it puts a wall around their heart to protect themselves, so that in their next relationship, they're not as open as they were. They're not as open to even receiving love or giving it, because they don't want to be hurt like they were in the last time. So they have that wall around their heart. And if this next relationship also ends in a bad way, or ends in then that makes that wall even stronger. So their jaw becomes incapable of doing the things necessary. So for instance, we're talking about in magic, how you have to be able to have passion for what you want to accomplish. But if people have built walls around their hearts, for instance, failed relationships that have built the walls around the heart, they are incapable of having the necessary passion to accomplish the magic until they've broken that wall down, and they can get back to the days before they had that wall built in the way that they're able to feel and express passion. And so when you look at those energy centers, all 5 of those energy centers, for most people, especially as they age, they become less and less and less. And that's why that particular angel, the Zikakoja angel, is very helpful if you realize and you look at your own life and say, number one, is my Z what it used to be? Is my Ka what it used to be? Is my Ko what it used to be? Is my heart and passion what it used to be in respect to being great and large and open? Or has it shrunk? Have I done what is necessary to keep expanding those things? Or have I neglected them and so they've atrophied? And so as you look at those things, most people are going to realize that, especially as they get older, that they've actually let those things atrophy. They haven't done things to expand their Z. They haven't done things to continually to feed their Ka, so it's growing in knowledge. They haven't done things to keep increasing their self-confidence, their self-reliance, their self-expression in their Ko. And they've built walls around their hearts to protect themselves from being hurt in their heart in the future from any source. And so calling upon the angel Zikakoja with the intent of breaking that pattern and allowing yourself to expand your Z and increase your knowledge and grow your Ko again and break down the walls of your heart, those 4 energy centers are actually very important for most people. Now, all your energy centers are important. It goes back to the weakest link. So I just addressed that one because that was a question about Zikakoja. But you may have the same situation again as people age and really notice this, is their whiz. They may have been very physically active when they were younger, but as they get older, they become more sedentary and they do less physical activity, and their health suffers for it. They may even have a knowledge of, well, my health is suffering because I'm not getting out and doing any exercise. I'm not even walking anymore. I sit in my chair all day. I sit in my bed all day, whatever. But they don't do anything about it. So calling upon the angel of the whiz with an intention of actually starting to do something is extremely helpful, because it's very easy. It's like a cement block that gets heavier and heavier. It's easy to become set in the wrong habits. The wrong habits are not helpful to you. And angels can be exceptionally powerful in changing that reality. So if you found yourself neglecting your physical, neglecting your mental, not doing anything to grow your vim or to spin your vims, and you just don't care, you just can't you're too apathetic about it. You need to call on the angels for that particular energy center or that grouping of energy centers, because if you neglect these things, they will atrophy, and you will have less of everything you actually want in your life as they atrophy. So you want to have more, not less. So that's what we'll have to see about that.
Oh, that was great. Thank you. Can you explain the difference between passion and excitement? Because you can say, oh, I'm really excited about this, but then, passion is more encompassing. So.
All right, well, if you're excited about something, it's actually coming from your core. And if you have passion about something, it's coming from your heart. So, if you're excited about something, it's not something you normally feel, it's something you think. It's in your mind, of excitement. But if you have a passion about something that you want to occur, or a person that you feel that intensely in your heart. You feel it. And that's, for instance, when you're doing magic as an example. That's one of the important things you need to do to be able to call in magical forces and coalesce them and then focus them on the purpose that you want to achieve. You have to be able to feel that in your heart. So, for instance, I know you were talking earlier about pillars and levitation and things. Well, if someone's doing that just from a mental standpoint, they might have a faith and they might have the right word of power and they might have the focus and the intent to make that rock, for instance, levitate. Or if you want to start simply, throw something up the air and just have it stop up with its apex. That's easier than making it levitate off the ground to start with. But in any case, the bottom line of that is that if they don't have a passion in their heart, meaning that they actually feel in their heart a great desire to see that rock rise off the ground or that rock stay up in the air at its apex and not fall down. If they don't have that, if they're just doing it all from a mental exercise, they might as well go read a book or watch a movie or go to sleep, because it's not going to happen. They have to be able to have that passion, that feeling in their heart. And so when you look at people, yourself or people you know, everyone has a tendency to be either more in their heart or more in their mind. And if you're going to truly be successful as a wizard or a sorcerer or sorceress, you need to be able to have those two be very balanced and harmonious. So, for instance, I know Ambrosen very well because I deal with him every day. And I know he's far too mental. Everything is so much in his mind, and so many of the activities that he does require his mind, so that he neglects his whiz, he neglects his body, and that's to his detriment. He's going to end up living less years and having less energy during the years that remain if he doesn't get more physically active. And I've talked to him about that before. And I'm sorry, Ambrosen, if I'm talking publicly about that, but that's the way it is. And and if you look at your own lives, you'll see that you're probably in one of those two camps. You're either too much in your mind or too much in your heart. You're too mental or you're too emotional. And the proper way is to have a balance of those two. The Ka and the Ja are the two most ancient energy centers, meaning they were the first two that found. They're the most accustomed to working together, but most people separate them. I mean, there are many people who only make their decisions in life based upon what their mind thinks about it. And there are other people who only make their decisions in life based upon what their heart feels about it. And they completely ignore what their mind thinks about it. If their heart feels right about it, even if it makes no sense whatsoever to do it, they're going to do it. And then the other way, people have in just their mind, and if it makes sense in their mind, even if their heart says, no, this does not feel right, they ignore their heart and they do only what their mind tells them to do. Those are recipes for catastrophe. Those are recipes for not succeeding at your goals. Your heart and your mind need to work together and be harmonious and be balanced, equal, not one greater than the other.
Oh, thank you. since we're talking about angels, there's the angel of karmic annulment, and that's curious to me because I've heard of people who think they can take away other people's karma. People hire people like that, take away all my bad karma. But so what does that mean? I mean, how do you, what's karmic annulment? It's, and how do you,
Why would we call on that angel?
What is the name of the angel?
it is Targaton.
All right.
Targaton.
So let me be clear on that. All right. So number one, nobody can take away someone else's karma. That would be like saying you did all these sins, but this person who you're going to pay over here is going to take all those sins away. No. Yeshua can erase any sins that someone has done after they've done repentance, after they've repented fully for their sins. And everyone, I'm sure, knows the steps of repentance, but I go over them again. You first have to recognize that you've done something wrong. And then you have to feel sorry for it. You have to have remorse that you've done something wrong. And then you have to confess to someone what it is that you did wrong. And if you've hurt somebody personally, you may have to confess to them. They may not have known. Sometimes that's not the wisest thing to do because you could actually hurt your relationship if they knew about that. But you still need to tell someone about it to get it off your shoulders. If you don't confess, then the weight still stays on your shoulders. It's better to confess to someone in person. But even if that's not possible, because doing so would make further damage, you have to confess at the very least to Elohim. And in that confession, you have to have a absolute sincere remorse for what occurred. And then you have to ask forgiveness. Again, ideally, you're asking forgiveness for the person, from the person it's wronged, if it's a person or the organization or whatever. But at the very least, you have to ask forgiveness from Elohim, and you have to forsake what you did. You can't do that again. You can't say, well, I want to repent today, but then tomorrow I want to do it again. Then I'll repent again tomorrow and do the same. It's not a cycle that you can keep doing. You have to, true repentance means you stop doing it and you don't do it again. And if you do those things, then Elohim promises that they'll forget that you ever did them. It'll be like they didn't exist. So in that case, you have done the actions necessary to erase the karma. Because if you do something that's wrong, it does create what the world calls karma, meaning that this is a bad energy that's hovering over you. And in different people's perceptions and minds, they'll have their own judgments of what needs to be the penalty for someone doing something bad. And then what they think, oh, this person robbed the bank, so they should go to prison for 20 years. And in fact, maybe it didn't happen. Instead, they robbed the bank and they got to live off all the money as a millionaire down in South America the rest of their life. And say, well, where's the karma for that? What happened there? How come they didn't have to go to prison and they got to live off the fruits of their evil actions? Well, just because you think that's what the answer should be for their karma, that doesn't mean that that's actually what it is. They can have something else that's going to affect their life, and they may, for instance, they may be a millionaire down living in South America off of the money they robbed from the bank, but their karma has created a negative energy that never allows them to trust anybody because they weren't trustworthy themselves in their actions, and so they never can trust anybody else. They can never have close relationships with people because they don't trust them. Well, this person's probably going to cheat on me in my relationship, or this person's going to probably cheat on me in business, and so they never can have that fulfillment and growth, and there are suffering from their karma. But as far as somebody else being able to wipe out the karma, even Yeshua will not wipe out someone's mistakes until they have repented of it. So that is not. So that particular angel is really a poorly named angel. As far as what you're calling it, that angel's name should be the angel of repentance, because that's what you're really talking about is repentance. You repent, you erase any bad karma that might have been built up because of your wrong actions.
Okay, so you would call on that angel if you need help repenting or?
Yes, if you've done something that's caused bad karma in your life. So for instance, let's see, you know, karma is not the even everybody understands it and they hear it in the Western world. It's not a really big subject like it is over, for instance, in India. In India, in the Hindu beliefs, karma is an extremely big thing. And so if someone has anything that's bad that's happening continually in their life, they can never get a good job, they can never have a good relationship, they can never, in their mind, it's never their fault. It's always some kind of bad karma that's on them, or some bad karma that's been put upon them by somebody else. And again, this is not the case. The case is that every one of you is responsible, every one of us, I include myself a lot as well. Everyone is responsible for their own life and their own choices, good or bad. And every choice you make, good or bad, has ramifications. Sometimes it might be very obvious what those ramifications are. Other times, maybe not. But they're there. And the only way you erase them is that you change. Nobody can erase them for you. You have to make the change that erases the consequences.
So you might call upon them also to help you change, not just to do repentance, but to help you to actually make.
Of course, yes. As I said, repentance means that you don't do it again. But if you're in a bad habit, you're going to do it again. That's the same thing. So you may repent, and at the time you repent, you're actually very, very sincere. I'm never going to do this again. But because you never actually took any actions to change the habit will reassert itself and you will do it again. So all that repentance would have been for naught. So part of repentance that's actually never included, I think when you talk about the 6 steps of repentance, that's all well and good. But I think the most important part of that is not talked about, that is very important, is that you have to learn how to substitute a new habit for the habit that caused you the problem to have to repent in the first place. So for instance, let's say that you have a tendency to always tell little lies, maybe to make yourself seem grander than you are, or to get some small advantage or something. Or maybe you always, when you play a board game with people and when they're not looking, you do little things to cheat to help give you a little advantage in that board game. And you know, it may be something small like that, or maybe something very big. But in any case, if that's been a habit of yours, even if you repent of it, if that's been a habit, you're still going to have that tendency to want to do that again, and probably to do that again, unless you substitute a new habit for it. And I know in Broson's talked about before with your group to read the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. And I would certainly second that as well. As a book everyone should read. It has nothing to do about selling anything, has everything to do about making yourself a better person. And part of that is to understand that the only way you can overcome a bad habit is to replace it with a good habit. So for instance, if you are a smoker and you've been smoking, many people try to quit smoking and they do it for a month or 2 or 3 or 6, even maybe a year, then they go back. Why did they go back? Well, they go back because they did not replace the bad habit with a good habit. So in order to get rid of a bad habit, you have to replace it with a good habit. You have to decide, well, what is a good replacement? Because you're in a rut. And even though you say, I'm going to stop being in this rut, you're still in the rut. You didn't actually get out of the rut, because the only way you get out of the rut is if you go into a new rut. And as it says in Og Mandino's book on habits, he says that to admit that you are a slave to your habits. And if you are, in fact, a slave to your habits, then choose to be a slave to your good habits, not your bad habits. And that's really the thing. You're going to be in a rut one way or the other. You can choose to be in a bad rut, or you can choose to be in a good rut. And that's I'm not saying it nearly as well as that gentleman says in the book, so I do encourage you to just get the book and read that. And I think I'm getting off on a tangent again. Because I like
No,
to.
it's a good thing.
All right. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, so basically Targabon is helps you break that cycle, helps you do all the things necessary from repentance to changing your habits to whatever is necessary to create good habits that will break that cycle and annul any karmic cycle that has.
Right. Annulling karma is a twofold thing. Number one, that you make repentance, and number two, that you substitute whatever it is you were. For instance, if you were a thief before and you stole things, now your new habit is you're generous and you give things away. You help, you give things to people instead of taking things from people. That's the new good habit. And every day of your life, you think, what can I do today to give something to someone? Whether it's a physical something, whether it's a word of encouragement, whether it's a help in their life in any way, what can I do to give from and to have that new habit instead of my old habit of taking? And so, yes, that's Tarragon is great, Angel, but that's the concept. Number one is repentance. Number two is you're changing to the habit that's replacing the old bad habit.
Great, thank you.
You are
Got that
welcome.
straight now.
You have any other questions then? Or did I answer them all? Or did I bore you everyone to tears?
No, you never bore us.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, are
I
there,
have my eyes closed. Perhaps everybody's already left and I'm just talking to myself.
Rosen wrote this down. I don't know what this is. Angel of six, no God. So,
Oh, I think that was spoken about already about why on planets that have a lot of magic,
oh,
you don't have a lot of religion, and they don't call upon angels because they don't need to call upon angels because they can do anything magically that they want to do.
Right.
so. Anybody else have any other questions?
I do. I have a question.
Right.
So, yeah, regards to religion, right? I know on a planet 6, there's no religion, but in this world, we have a whole series of religion, right? Not the traditional type, the Catholic, the Protestant, but the non-traditional religion, like, different traditional religions that's based on interacting with spirits and nature. Example, to have the Native Americans who did that, right? It's not a religion per se, but it's interacting with the nature itself. And there's also, African-based religions like Orisha, Ifa, stuff like that. And there's also religions in the Caribbean that are more like voodoo-based religions and stuff like that, which basically kind of converge from different aspects. Could you talk more about that from a different level, of a higher level, in terms of, are these falsified? Are they true? Or what basically created those non-traditional, or are they just created by man to, like you said, like was mentioned before, because of humans going through different sufferings and need some kind of replacement? I just want to hear your aspect on that
All
on
right.
a higher level.
A very good question. Thank you very much. There's a couple aspects there that are come together to make those type of religions. Any religion, actually. Number one is, and this is something to keep in mind, is many religions, both big ones like your Catholic religion or your Muslim religion, or any large religions like that, or very small ones that may be very tribal and very localized in a certain area. But a lot of religions, not every single religion, but a lot of religions, most of the religions, majority of religions, big or small, one of their primary purposes is to control the people, to get the people to do what they want them to do. Now, sometimes that's purely from a religious standpoint, that the leaders of the religion want to have control over the people. Sometimes it's a collusion with the politicians, that the religion and the politics go together to control the population and to have the population do things that they would not otherwise agree to do if they didn't think it was a religious obligation or a religious need to do. So think about that for a second. There's a lot of things that people do in the name of religion that if religion was not in the equation, they would never choose to do that. And they only choose to do it because they either fear the religion, they fear if their religion teaches them if they don't do this, they're going to go to hell, or they're going to become a voodoo slave, or any number of things that are bad consequences of not following the dictates of the religion or the leaders of the religion. And again, sometimes that's part of the collusion with the politicians or the feudal lords, or the leaders of the aristocracy that want to be able to control the common people. And so, and to make sure they don't revolt against them. And so religion is used as a tool of control. That's number one. But then on the other hand, there's another aspect of religion that has nothing to do with that. And this is when you come back to the religions that you're speaking about there, Caribbean religions, African religions, other localized type religions that may be very different than the mainstream type religions that people are aware of and see every day. Even though you can take, they may have some rituals, for instance, that are involved in there that may seem repulsive or very not something that people that are of other religions embrace or say that why are they doing something like that? But for those people who are doing that, it's something that's helping them to grow. And that's the thing. A lot of people get involved in religions of all types because they have a sincere desire inside their heart. They may not even mentally think about it. It's just a motivation in their spiritual soul that knows that there's more out there than what they see in the general world. And they're called to it. It pulls them. They want to grow spiritually. They want to grow in the spirit. And a lot of your more primitive type religions actually are able to get people into that space easier. So you have these, again, and I'm not trying to come down on any particular religions, please understand that. But because people are very familiar with Catholic religions, for instance, and all the rituals and all the fancy dress everybody wears and the priest wear and the cardinals wear and the pope wear and everything. And that's all this regalia, if you will, that becomes part of projecting that they have the power, that they are the source, and then people then follow them. But they don't have that, most people, they're doing it through rote. They do it because that's what they're told to do or what they're taught to do or what they grew up doing. And they don't actually have any personal growth from it. It's just what they're supposed to do. And then you get to smaller religions. And again, you can't make a generalization because some religions are actually not good at all. But most religions have some aspect, especially your smaller ones, especially ones if you're talking about that are more related to culture, for instance, Caribbean religions, is that they help the people to grow in that religion. But you always have to keep in mind that virtually all religions have some aspect of wanting to control the people for some purpose or reason. They want the people to act the way they want them to act. So on one hand, the people can have a benefit where going through that religious ritual, that religious rite, those religious beliefs actually helps them get closer to Elohim, even though they may not know the name of Elohim. They may not even have that concept. Maybe the religion teaches a different concept of what God is, but it still brings their soul essence and their energy centers closer to that essence of God, of Elohim. So there's a way. On one hand, especially if you're talking about culturally type-based religions that are based on the cultural areas, those are going to have oftentimes people who have great faith, who have great belief, and that their religion helps them to have that. But on the other hand, is their religion doing things that are trying to control them, to dictate how they live their life, to tell them actions that they have to take that they would not otherwise take? That's the key metric there. when you look at any religion, big or small, cultural or multicultural, ask that key question. Is the religion asking the people or forcing the people or encouraging the people in any way to take actions that they would not in their normal, moral, ethical self choose to take? And that's really a very quick way you can tell any religion from any source if it's going to be something that's has at least some help for people, or is a little bad and a little good, or all bad and no good. It's just how is that weighed? How much is that religion putting pressure on the people to act in ways they would not otherwise act, that would not be in their self-interest, that would not be in the self-interest of other people that are good self-interest. So in our lives, all of us, mine, yours, and Bro's and Shiona's, Sky's, everyone, you want to be able to do things that help you personally to grow and do not hurt any other people, but instead help other people as well. As you become a better person, you already are helping other people just from that. But you can actually, that's more of a covert way of helping people. You can also do an overt way where you're actually taking actions that are obviously helping people. And so when you look at religions, ask yourself.
Or any group,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Any group.
absolutely. That's a very good point. Any group, are they encouraging you to do things that are helping you to personally grow and that you would choose to do even if they weren't there? That you would choose that good path if you have the opportunity to choose it. That don't hurt others, and that help you and help others. And you'll see that many religions are quite coercive. Some of them are very subtle about it. Some of them are very obvious about it. But in any case, if they're subtly or obviously coercing people through one means or another to take actions that they would not normally take, that are not ethical, that are not moral, that are not helping them and are not helping other people, well, that answers your question about the religion.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, absolutely, because I was coming from a source of Elohim, and I could be biased, of course, right? So when you're speaking of Elohim, Celestine light, I'm biased, right? But at the same time, I'm coming from my cultural roots, my background, right? And then of African ancestry, Caribbean ancestry, where there's multiple different religions, different aspects, but you made an excellent point where as long as they're doing this for their own development, that it gets them closer to God, then that's important. And that's what really kind of settled in for me now to make it see the whole big picture, right? Because there's different, non-traditional religions out there, but some of them are not good, right? Some of them use a lot of dark magic, a lot of darkness just to control people. But there's others, that basically are here to develop individuals to get to the next level, what they see fit for themselves. But you kind of answered my question to really understand, the differences, and I thank you for that. I really do.
You're most welcome. Thank you for asking a great question.
Can I just say something?
Yes, please.
The way I understood this question was not in a political sense, because I grew up in the environment which he's talking about. It's like you've got a town and you've got your local witch doctors. They're not politically linked with anybody. They're just there to solve the people's problems. Yeah. And when you've got a problem, you go to your witch doctor, who probably uses some form of what you'd call a servitor, or something along those lines, or what you call animal spirits, which they use and they have somehow made connections with through their skills. And they use these spirits and these servitors, which they have created relationships with, to try to solve some of the problems, along with a lot of herbs and herbalism, in conjunction with that kind of thing. That's how I understand it, because I grew up in that environment, And
Where
wasn't.
where did you grow up, sir?
I grew up in Nigeria.
Nigeria, right. I think we have another person on our call that's also from Nigeria as well here. So yes, I should say that in that regard, that when you're talking about witch doctors, shamans, things like this, calling upon different servitors or animal spirits, that, and I'm going to just tell you the reality here, and I don't know if that's going to offend you or not, but
No.
there's a lot of things that are done by people in that category that are not actually occurring the way that they seem to be occurring. And so, for instance, you can go, I know I've seen these things myself. You can go to, for instance, a witch doctor, and someone may see this person, the witch doctor, levitating that person up in the air, as an example. Did that witch doctor levitate that person up in the air by the means that they say that they did? No, they did not. Did the person levitate up in the air? Well, they went up in the air. Did they levitate? Well, levitate means that there's nothing physically that's pulling them up in the air in any way. But just like a stage magician, a lot of things that shaman, and witch doctors have done is to fool the people. There's a lot of people, if they see something physically occur, if they see a person levitate up in the air, that gives them a tremendous belief in that witch doctor, shaman, or guru, or whoever said that they did that. And now that person's fame grows because everybody who was there, they tell all their friends, and they tell all their friends. And then all of a sudden, that person has great power and prestige because they saw with their own eyes that this occurred. Well, the problem being that it didn't really actually occur. It was different. It was, so it's like a stage magician doing a magic trick. Well, if it's a stage magician, they tell you, this is a magic trick. It's an illusion. It's not real. And so even though it must seem very real, nobody goes out of the, everybody may go out of the audience and say, well, wow, they do that. But they don't go out of the audience and say, wow, they really did do that, didn't they? They all knew it was some type of illusion. They just didn't figure it out. But a lot of the shaman witch doctors, they do that same type of illusions. But they do it, and they don't tell people that as illusion. They tell them that that's real. What you saw happened. And so the people believe that, and they tell their friends, and that power and the prestige gets to be very great. Now, that does not mean that every shaman or witch doctor is a facade, is a fraud. It doesn't mean that at all, because a lot of them do great good in the world that they're in the culture that they're in. And yes, they do have a great knowledge of herbs, and they can help people, and they can call in energies. They've learned how to do that, just like calling in magical energies that can help. But if they're calling in any kind of spirit to help, whether they call it an animal spirit or a servitor or any other thing, that is not something that is truly helpful, because those things come from demonic sources, not from Elohimic sources. And that's something to be very aware of. So you can call in an angel to help, but if it's calling in something from some other source, then that's not an Elohimic source. Now, you can call in an animal energy. So for instance, and that can be very helpful, but if you're actually calling in a spirit of something like that, that's not helpful. But if you're calling in an energy, so for instance, let's say we think about a bull as being a very powerful animal, powerful bull, or a bear being very powerful. And so if someone was physically very weak, and the witch doctor, shaman, or herbal healer, or any other type of healer came in and helped to call in the energy of the bull or the bear to give that person greater strength, they're not, what's happening there? If their person is told that the energy of the bear or the energy of the bull is called in and is upon them now to give them greater strength, that mentally clicks, and it helps that person to actually gain greater strength within themselves, even physically make a manifestation of physical difference. But it's a focus of belief. not a focus of that they actually called in a bear or called in a bull or called in a energy of that different than actual just energy of perception. So when you look at witch doctors, servitors, things like that, or shaman, you have to look at what are they actually doing. If they're actually doing something that they're physically doing, like calling in Arabs, helping mental energies to be perceived in a cultural way that the people perceive it well, then those are all good things. But if they're calling in servitors, those are going to be things that are going to be demonic in their source. And so you have to be careful there. And then also realize that whenever you see them do something that seems to be totally magical, like levitating a person off the ground as an example, that's done as an illusion, because once the people have seen it and they don't know that it was an illusion, it becomes real and it becomes in their mind, their perception of it. And it gives power to that witch doctor, shaman, guru, whatever. So anyway, I think that's an important point to understand. It's one of the reasons that in Celestine Light, even though you may have great magic, you don't go showing that great magic, because you don't want people to be putting you up on some pedestal as a guru. You don't want putting people up. Let your life that you live be your example. If someone wants to put you on a pedestal, be it because of the person that you are, your kindness, your compassion, your generosity, your love, not because you can do some magical effect, real or not. And so that's all I have to say about it.
Excellent, thank you.
Do you have other questions? I like that very best, even though I don't have a lot of time. And I should have been going
One quick question.
fun to answer questions.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes, please.
Could I use multiple angels to achieve one aim?
I don't know. It would depend upon the aim. If you can use certainly multiple angels, of course, just like you can call in multiple things in your life. If you want to achieve something in life, you're probably going to need to have multiple things to do it to make that achievement. So yes, multiple angels can certainly be called in. In fact, as a good example, I know the three of these three here do enchantments a lot for different things. And in that enchantment, they may call in sometimes 24 different angels to imbue their energy or their stewardship into the object that's being enchanted. So yes, you definitely can call multiple angels to achieve your purpose. And that's actually probably a very wise thing to do, to go through your list of angels. Oh, that one will be helpful. That one will be helpful. That one will be helpful. Call on all of them.
It's part of consciously creating your reality too, right?
Okay, so there won't be any conflict.
No, not as where your conflict becomes isn't in the number of angels you call in. The conflict becomes in if you are trying to achieve multiple purposes, so you don't have a focus. So it's easier. So for instance, let us go back to enchantments. And I mentioned that they may call in 25 different angels to help with that enchantments, to help imbue their energy or their stewardship into the object being enchanted. Well, if that object is enchanted for a single purpose, even though it may have 24 angels that are putting their stewardship in, if it's all focused for a single purpose, then that's going to be a very powerful enchantment. But if it's focused for multiple purposes, every other purpose that is purposed for is going to divide the magic and dilute it. So there's only so much magic, for instance, that you can put into an object. It has a finite capacity to hold magic, depending upon the object. And so if 100% of that finite capacity is all focused on one objective, then that's going to be an extremely powerful magic for achieving that one thing. But if you say, well, now I want it to be actually to do 4 things that are not really related to each other, they're not harmonious with each other. I want it to be able to do this and do that. You could do that. You could put all 4 of those things into the enchanted object, but now each one of them, let's say you had 4, is going to only have 1/4 of the magical energy to be able to apply towards that thing, instead of 100% of the magical energy if it was just one objective.
Okay, thank you very much. One little question to add to that. What about if I was to call on Olympian spirits in addition?
I am not sure what you were referring to as Olympian spirits, so you have to elaborate.
Olympian spirits associated with chaos magic.
Well, they're celestial spirits, Olympian spirits. They're celestial spirits, meaning spirits of the heavens or angels.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yeah,
If you're calling on angels, that's fine. Olympian spirits, I'm not sure by that terminology what you're speaking of, but celestial spirits. When you say spirits, that's a strange word sometimes.
it's Olympian. Well, angels, I think, is the proper.
Angels, you call on angels all you want. Angels, the thing is that if you do something personally to help any other person, you've just gained more energy of soul essence to your soul. You've expanded, you've grown. And it's the same for angels. Every time they help someone, they personally grow and expand their soul energy essence. So they have unlimited desire to help. They love when people call upon them for help because they grow when they help that person. So as long as you're calling on them for a worthy moral cause that is not hurting anyone else or impeding anyone else in any way, or not taking advantage of anyone else, is not allowing you to succeed by making others to fail. As long as you're not doing anything like that, the angels will be very happy to help you. But if you're doing anything that's going to be any of the things I just said, the angels will not help you. So you have to make sure that your own purposes are worthy.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
It's a question about the city of Atlantis.
All right.
Did that really exist, or was just another fake information?
Well, the city of Celestin really existed, which is where the myth of Atlantis came from. But the actual city, actually, the whole civilization. I think the articles really talk about that a lot in the articles, where they talk about how that whole evolved. And I would refer everyone who's interested in that to read that in the articles when they talk about the civilizations that existed, but they're not the same as the ones. So for instance, the common concept of Atlantis that you're probably referring to is from the original Greek story that talked about Atlantis being located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which occurs as the Strait of Gibraltar, and which means that it would be located somewhere out in the Atlantic Ocean, and hence Atlantis from the Atlantic Ocean. Yes, that did not exist. All right, but the actual Celestin, which was located down in the South Indonesian area, that did exist, and an equally great civilization existed up in what is today in northern India area. And the story of those two great civilizations were the seven cities, which is up in the Indian area. So they called it the seven cities. And those seven cities were completely destroyed, and the Celestin was also destroyed in a war between those two civilizations.
Nuclear.
As is depicted in the article. And it is nuclear, was nuclear. And the evidence of that is still physically on the earth. So you can go and you can, and this is not something that just some religious text that can't be tested. You can actually test that. You can actually go and you can find a layer of radioactivity that permeates that entire area. It's a very little thin layer, but it's all at the right time. And unfortunately, nobody's ever done that. But if anyone ever wants to just take a few color samples in the right area, they'll see that you have this little thin layer that shows that the entire area at one time was nuclearly destroyed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I would love to take more questions, but unfortunately, I do have other pressing matters, so I'm going to have to thank you very much for spending some time with me today. It's such a joy to be able to talk with you, and it's just a joy for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for spending so much time.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for the talk on energy centers. It was so beautiful. I'm all full of it now. I can't wait to go back and reflect on all the information you've given me on that. You know,
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for that.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. I hope that we have this opportunity again very soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Go in your light, so love and joy.
There you are.
Welcome. Welcome. You came to the meeting.
Sleeping on the job.
Well, I can go ahead and call on that angel.
Yeah.
Ready?
Oh, yeah, no, Max, give me a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So does anybody have anything they want to mention about anything we just talked about?
This was awesome.
Yeah, it always
Yeah.
is when Philos tells us.
Yeah.
things. You can recognize and feel somebody talking that is not from here, that have knowledge far beyond us, you know. And Brosman talks, and he's very knowledgeable about all kinds of, anything you can think of, he's got knowledge. But when Philos talks, there's a whole different feeling of where that knowledge comes from. And it's not from you, sorry.
Yeah,
That's
so
okay.
our resources readily at his fingertips.
Yeah, we're all blessed, including me, to have Philos.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of back, so.
Okay, well, I thought we could call on that angel of the Zika Jah, and his name, he's a male right now. His name is Zika Jah. Zika Jah. That's a cool name.
Yeah.
So we're gonna call on him now, and definitely sounds like we could all use help.
Sorry,
you know.
sorry. Where can I find his? Sorry, where can I find his sigil?
We don't
Yeah,
have.
we use a lot of angels, Chris, that are not in the book. So
Oh.
when we bring them up, you want to write their name down, because you can call them
Right.
without a sigil, just using the name.
Yeah.
And as you go to these meetings or listen to the videos, almost every one it seems we have one or more angels. So actually we have 3 new angels that we've talked about today.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna give that other one yet. That's for another day.
Which one?
The angel nullifying the karma.
Well, I
No,
mean, you
that's
can
not-
write it down right now. It's Targalon, Targalon.
Yeah, that's
That's
that's the one with
karmic annulment.
it's called karmic annulment, but it actually is a combination of repentance and changing your habits to
Right.
good habits.
So yeah, everybody go ahead and write that and get it in your book. Targalon.
Targalon, and then we have Zija Quoja, and then also you did the Euphorius too, but we didn't talk.
Oh,
about
we
it.
didn't
No.
talk about Euphoria.
Did you want to talk about Euphorius? Okay, so the other angel that you might write down that we were talking internally about today, and we'll elaborate more upon in the future, is Euphorius. It's like the word euphoria, but it's Euphorius, and
To call in.
and to
energy
calling
of
the
euphoria.
energy of
Who
euphoria.
doesn't want to feel euphoric?
Well, many people have gone their entire lives and never felt euphoria. Euphoria is a very special feeling, and so if you've never felt euphoria about anything, and you have something you want to feel euphoria about, the angel Euphorius would be the one to.
And how do you
Recall.
spell it? E
E
as in Edward.
U P
P
H
as in
O S R I U S. Euphorius is a really great angel to call upon if you're meditating in a very special spot, and you're by yourself, and you're in a area that you have a nice expansive view, like a big valley or the ocean or something like that, because those are areas that help the energy of euphoria to come in when you have a big expanse in front of you. So if you're inside a little closed-in area, it's hard to get euphoria energy. But if you're in a very expansive open area, top of a mountain, looking down on a valley, at an ocean, looking out, even in the desert, looking out in the vast expanses of the sand, that openness is what helps call in the energy of euphoria. And euphoria can be very, very powerful energy.
And I'm just curious, has everyone at some time in their life experienced euphoria? It may have
Yes.
lasted for a short moment or for a little bit of time, but I know I've experienced it, and it's almost indescribable how wonderful it feels. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I've experienced it when I hang glide.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Ooh, you would,
That's that expansive, it's up in the sky. Yeah, you
Yes.
can't get more expensive than that.
Yes.
A reason for us to all go
Yeah.
hand gliding.
Well, we'll be calling
Yeah.
that angel probably. the
I've
next-
experienced it, and then I've gone and checked my lottery tickets, and it wasn't.
So you've experienced this, that means you must have won the lottery then, huh?
I was hoping.
Well, right now, we're gonna call in Zika Koja and ask him to help us all to bring balance and the energies between, he's the angel of harmony and synergy between the Zika Koja. So here we go.
Call it 3 times.
Zika Koja, Zika Koja, Zika Koja, please come to us.
As we need, so let it be. Zika Koja, Zika Koja, Zika Koja. Please come to us. As we need, so let it be. Zika Koja, Zika Koja, Zika Koja. Please come to us. As we need, so let it be.
Zika Koja, thank you so much for being here with us. And we've had some wonderful expansions and talks from Philos about your stewardship. And we're so appreciative of what you're doing with it and what you can do for us. And each one of us can ask you in a specific manner if they wish, but help us all with bringing synergy and the energy, the harmony between the Zika Koja. So we love you and appreciate you. Thank you.
So be it.
Yeah. Okay, so for the word of power this week, this is also a new one that you'll want to write down. I don't believe I've given this one before, but it's to become more telepathic. And so this is a word of power that I say every day.
And she is becoming more telepathic. It's amazing to watch her.
So anyway, the name of the universal power is Amarax. AMARAX. Amarax.
Amarax. Oh, that's a cool one. Amarax.
Yeah, it's funny because the other day, I heard Samara saying that word of power, but I was in another room and I wasn't hearing it clearly. And it sounded to me like she was saying Hammerak. I said, what are you doing calling Hammerak? He's a bad demon. You better not be calling him.
Anyway, let's start softly and build in power.
3 times.
Amarax. 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 That's a great word of power.
That's awesome.
Easy to say. Some of them are little tongue twisters. And that one is
That's
helpful.
Easier to remember for me almost. We'll see if I remember later.
And telepathy is one of those abilities that is one of the easier abilities to develop of the different supernatural abilities that we don't normally use or have in our lives. And especially if you have a partner in your life that you're with every day in a home situation, that becomes one that you really will find telepathy is coming to you even without you thinking about it. And you may not even always realize that it's happened. But especially you'll find if you think about it, again, we're talking about a person that you live with regularly, your wife, your husband, and with that person, how many times have they said something and you say, I was just thinking about that. And it isn't something that was talked about that day, or it was just out of the blue. They said something and you were just thinking that same thing, and you said it. I was just thinking about that. I was just about to say something to you about that. Does that ever happen to anybody?
Yeah.
You're
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yep.
You're experiencing telepathy, and you know it's telepathy because it came out of the blue. It wasn't a subject that either one of you have been talking about in the last days even. And it just came out of the blue, and wow, I was just thinking about it. Or maybe it was something that you talked about yesterday, but you've talked about 300 things in between, and all of a sudden that's the thing you both thought about and started thinking about at the same time.
Well, and a fun thing with the word of power Amarax for telepathy, then also if you're like wanting to do something experiment, maybe you want to learn to speak to your animals friends with telepathy.
Which is a great use of
Say
it.
this word, but also call upon Korban the angel of telepathy, because he actually connects neurons in the brain that will help you start activating that aspect of your brain. So call on both of them.
Yeah, that's always a dual
That's a
thing. And,
superpower.
when I say my words of power, I always start with the angels.
Right,
'cause they
and
do work
Corban is
in
in the book.
tandem for many things.
So,
Yeah.
so quick question. Do you call on the angels every day, 24/7, or you have some break in between? Because I feel like I don't want to call them, bother them every day.
That's my new habit. Is every day.
Ah, okay,
The
And
more the
it-
better.
Yeah,
okay.
For
It's-
them
it's-
and us.
I've added it to my practice.
Be a red bee.
Right.
And-
So now, yeah,
Yeah, and then the same thing that Felix was talking about too on 6, is that as we ourselves have less ability, we have a tendency to want to call on angels or words of power, anything else more, because we ourselves, but as we gain more ability, it's not bad that we don't call on angels less, because if we can do it ourselves now 100%, we don't need to call on the angels. And as you progress, you'll find that you may be calling upon an angel less than you did in the past. And that's not bad, because it just means it's only bad if you're actually haven't progressed and you also are not calling an angel. But if you've progressed and grown and have grown in your abilities, you don't need the angel to help anymore. That's a good thing. So
Yeah, well, I'm gonna start a new business and I'm gonna be.
thank you for that.
I'm gonna be using the words of power, and there's an angel that helps with that. And I've never started a new business having those wonderful tools before. So I'm excited. I haven't been excited about starting a new business forever, seems like. So this is going to be fun because I've got magic to add into it.
Mm.
So I'll tell you how it goes as I'm not ready to launch yet. So, but getting there.
Sounds good.
well, this has been a pretty long meeting today. Thanks everybody for sticking with it. And Brother Chris, just to put you together, Sister Zandy is in Nigeria right now. So if
Oh,
you're
that's
from
right.
Nigeria, she's from Nigeria and still there.
Yeah.
Okay.
How
thank
long
you.
have you been in
Thank you.
English?
1979.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
A while.
How old were you when you moved?
20. I'm 64 now, so I was 21 then.
Wow, you sure don't look 64. I definitely would not have guessed that.
No.
Does not look 64. Nuh-uh. No.
Ooh, 25.
Ah,
Right?
uh,
All right,
Thank
brothers and sisters, anything else for today before we go? And I really appreciate everybody's, being here today. I know that Sister Doncha really would have missed this meeting.
Yeah.
I love you guys so much. I appreciate you
Yes.
taking the time to be in.
Love you too, man.
Really lift me up.
likewise. Yeah.
Yeah, I love you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you too.
Love you all.
Namaste, everyone. Love
Yes.
you all.
Namaste. Yeah.
You too.
Brother and
Yeah.
Sister
Namaste.
William and Erica Jones. I'm so happy to see you both here together.
We're
Yes.
happy to be here.
Now, if only we could get our granddaughter to behave, so we don't have to keep going off video.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a challenge. That's a challenge.
Well, I look forward to seeing you all here for Vitalta 2023. I'll keep reminding everybody so they keep it on.
That's
their-
awesome.
And we get to plan a hand gliding trip, maybe.
Yeah. Or Brother Reggie, I know one of the things that's popular here, we have a mountain right across the valley from us
Yeah.
called Grizzly Peak. A lot of people parasail up there, or they hike up there with their backpack and their parasail in the back, and then they jump off with.
Oh, sweet. I'll be doing that. You know me.
Well, we want to do that too, so.
Yeah,
we'll go up there with you.
You can help us.
Yeah. Chris is like, oh, not me. No, I'll be on the ground.
All right.
I'm
Have a
scared.
nice week. Love you all. Have a great week. Namaste.
You
All right.
too.
You too.
Namaste.
Bye,
Namaste.
everyone. Love y'all all.
Love you too, guys.